Yo, what up, hoes? It's your favorite N-word, Transparency got motherfucking Barnes in the city. I'm at Palm Coast having a good time, you know. It's a party. And I'm getting ready to write another fanfic because I'm at a resort for the first time and I'm very inspired. So I'm going to go over how I came up with it, what's going on in it, how it would transpire if I were to actually screenwrite it. Because this would be a multi-season series called the Bizzaro Rocco Hotel. And it's about humans and mermaids, mermen, merpeople, primarily, but there are other super beings, super people, supernaturals around in that world and whatnot, but this story will focus on the relations between humans and merpeople. So, came up with this idea almost, almost 4 hours of being here. And, you know, just having a good time. You know, I done made up 36 characters already. Well, it's in the works, but I also made up several other recurring type characters in the show and whatnot. Like, already got my rainbow group in it. I'll be the main character. Got some other type of characters and whatnot, like the main event coordinator, the operations people, the concierge people, the head of food, head of vendoring, head of you know, IT stuff and things like that. And then making up everything around those characters, you know, all the affairs, all the intricacies, all the comedy, all the drama, all the entertainment. And it starts now. Mwah.
Testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. It's your favorite N-word, Terrence Prescott Barnes. This time I'm going to be telling you about a story I call the Bizzaro Rocco. Back during the week leading up to March the 10th, 2023, I decided to give Imagination Land a break. During that break, I immediately made up a whole new world, one that revolves around human and super kind relations. All because the Hammock Golf and Spa Resort hit a nigga like a television show that takes place at a resort. Right from the moment we pulled up to the fountain and saw the valet people, there went the development of my first vacation visions. The Bizzaro Rocco Resort takes place in a palace-style resort located on the state lines of South and North Carolina. It's near the region of a Merpeople colony Mezzanine Kings, one of the thousands of Merpeople colonies around the seas and oceans of Earth. There are plenty of other superkind, but this story will focus on humans and Merpeople. Sometimes the forward operating bases or ports along the coast of any continent. This one happens to be a resort, a rather luxurious one with a whole history of about 600 years. The fringe department of the military are stationed at each forward operating base that will be Major General Zephyr, leading the helm at this destination. He is in command of several militants and a few civilian contractors. The militants would be Georgia, Bronco, Minnie, Slater, Captain Noja, and the House of Barnes, a family that has acted like the property manager since the hotel was built in year 1843. It is now year 2475. It has always been the Barnes assuming the physical leadership role at this resort to the point they actually became the property owners. Nowadays, the current Father Barnes has been slain to a curse that was put upon him by the Merpeople because he didn't follow the most important bylaw of human-mare relations. Do not allow humans and Merpeople to fall in love. It's really that simple. Honestly, truly. Father Barnes saw no conflict with anybody falling in love. At all. Even started to help Merpeople get across the states to trust the tri. I mean, he has lived a whole luxurious life on that resort, understanding all of the bylaws and the family legacies. Upholds all of the bylaws and makes sure all species of the planet live a fair as possible life. The king of the colony didn't see it that way. It took 7 years of cursed energy to finally take down Father Barnes, who has helped more than 50 couples trust the tri. Majority of them, if not all, are still in lovely relationships. accompanied with a cheat sheet for the Merpeople's survival and a life away from a coast or any bodies of water. Father Bourne straight up dodged so many metaphorical bullets that it's not fair. With a superpower of astronomy hummingbird, it's easy to escape in all directions when you can teleport at will. But it happened, and one of the sons needed to come and take the helm for the remainder of their life cycle. Out of 4 siblings, Terrence Prescott made the decision to take up the helm until who wanted it would get the proper orders to come home. Terrence being the oldest, with ambitions of becoming an astronaut, those were more important to him, but he sacrificed his space mission. Whereas the second-born stated he would return home once their father retired from the military. While the second-born finishes up his fringe duties in another dimension for the next 5 years, Terrence Prescott will sacrifice 5 years of being in outer space for the greater good. That part of the story will be explained in the pilot, but the first scene will be Terrence on a train. Another soldier of the military had the same idea. Minnie, a med school-made brainiac with refined doctorate skills for being a battlefield medic and surgeon. They took the train for the sightseeing aspect, and they were lucky with sitting on the same row, across from one another. Eventually, they noticed military bags and dog tags and got acquainted after recognizing each other's faces from dossiers weeks before. He had to warn her. The staff loves to welcome new employees as if they are resort guests. His words? You should expect all of the following, if not just one of them. Somebody will be teary-eyed, somebody will have cupcakes, there will be confetti, there will be balloons, and you might even get a complimentary bottle of top-shelf liquor. The kind that will have you taking clothes off from one sip. In short, it's an adventurous, dramatic, and comedic kind of story. There will be lots to celebrate, lots to get over, lots to uncover, lots to bury, and lots of nail-biting. Maybe lots of body slamming and moving furniture, because if it was up to me, it would be an animated series, but my husband feels like it would be best suited for a live-action series. Either way it goes, it would be taking place around a resort and anywhere else the characters' backgrounds and adventures take them. I can see it being told over 1 hour-long episodes, 10 episodes over 5 seasons, where the main 36 characters deal with the inadequacies of trying to make human-male relations better than a lifetime ago. There's lots of intricacies to deal with when it comes to meshing cultures between 2 species, but between the Woodians, Merpeople, elves, dragonborns, fairies, and orcs, there's always something drastically radical to deal with. The main problems are, you guessed it, around humans and Merpeople falling in love. Mr. Barnes is going to be in an on and off love affair of the beyond with one of the princes of Colony Mizzenny Kings. There's going to be a mermaid who has never been detected, living her life as a human and infiltrating positions they could never. There's going to be a girl group comprised of 5 girls from different colonies around the planet. There's going to be a human that tortures superkind for multiple reasons. The king is going to kill more humans and even Merpeople. There's going to be betrayals against humans and Merpeople. Friends will be reunited, feelings will be exposed, emotional diagonals will develop, and there's going to be thrusting all over the place. Some of the hottest to the lukewarmest of people around the planet comes to this resort for the vivacious climate it offers. Even during the winter, it sometimes holds a strong warm climate. That's an ode to how magical the Merpeople are. That kind of magic reaches out long, but when secrets upon secrets get revealed, there will be a whole lot more senseless violence, but turning tragedy into love will heal their existence. Affairs, 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 and some more affairs you will become accustomed to. This is how the world came to be. The Bizzaro Rocco Resort was built with one main tower of hotels in year 1843. The hotel towers are built up to 15 stories with 20 big old rooms for rent, vacation, or extended vacation purposes on each floor. The second tower was added in year 1900. The third and final tower was added in year 2000, making it so that seniors have one tower, adults without children have a tower, and there's a tower to occupy those with children. The amenities revolved around 10 original restaurants that revolve around sports, Italian, Indian, Latin, American, Asian, sushi, vegetarian, dessert cuisines, and a special restaurant that belongs to the food director of the resort, Chop City. It's a restaurant that examples cuisine around the world. The menu changes monthly and has been getting grand reviews since its debut. 10 years prior to the beginning of the story, making season 1 its 10-year anniversary. Then they have a seasonal spot that filters in Burger King, IHOP, McDonald's, Hardee's, Taco Hell, and the like every now and then. The amusements they have are an entire area that houses 2 roller coasters, 2 Ferris wheels, some other rides, and several other games. The other amusements deal with several pools, some inside, most out, and lazy rivers around the property. There are 7 hot tubs spread around that are close to the 3 locker rooms and 3 gyms. Attached to each are steam rooms of the dry and wet variations. Then there are the 3 ballrooms, routinely scheduled for events and weddings. All 3 of them have their 3 fields attached to them. Then they have 3 areas of coastline. One is for nudists, and is the furthest away. Colony Mezzanine Kings established in year 214. They have had over 50 throne wars out the gigantic 50-branch family tree. The previous order was a lot more peaceful than King Drake's order. He changed the bylaws to reflect a more restricted relationship with humans, one that forcibly checked the most important bylaw of them all, intimacy between species, one that has affected Agents Georgia and Slater directly. Human-male relations began in year 1901. There were too many species fighting for lands around the planet at that time. Peacemakers such as doctors and religious figures shaped the treaties the governments kept trying to backlog. Because of their peace orders and shutting down all of the world in the dimensions, they were able to force the governments to agree that there are in fact multiple intelligent species in this world. Doing that avoided another world war. That wouldn't involve nations. It would have involved life forms. Because of the supernatural, there have been no national-driven world wars. Because there have been no national-driven world wars, humans, elves, orcs, dragonborns, fairies, Woodians, mag people, and Merpeople occupy this earth and all of the 6 magical dimensions they've created because of it. Yet, there's discourse in every century that results in wars. The following information will tell you where each species live and whatnot. Humans, Earth, in 4 dimensions out of 6. Elves, 1 dimension as home in the other 5. Orcs, 1 dimension as home in the other 5. Dragonborns, 1 dimension as home in the other 5. Mag people, 1 dimension as home in the other 5. Fairies, Woodians, and Merpeople are the only species that are on all 7 planes of existence. As of now, it's been more than 600 years of peace, it being year 2475. No one is going against it and in a hardcore way, but there are several interspecies wars that still threatens the grand scheme of peace. All species are allowed in militaries. All species have their own form of militaries. Generally, all militaries work well with one another because the same threat is considered the unknown, or the next intelligent species. The 7 dimensions are all of the size of planet Earth while all reflecting the same universe at the same time. Travel between the 7 dimensions is not limited. It can't always be documented. As long as you have enough magic, you can teleport to another dimension. And yes, the Bermuda Triangle is one of the natural teleporting points between dimensions. All land masses reflect one another. Then there's the last one, the different level of malicious intent in everyone's natural DNA RNA. Humans, orcs, dragonborns, and merpeople are the most malicious species. Elves and fairies are less malicious than them. Mag people are somewhat malicious but have evolved since a millennia ago from it. Woodians are non-malicious since they are vegetative-based life forms. They provide oxygen for all of the species. They have natural airs about them that usually calm most stressed individuals, but it doesn't work on anyone on a warpath that they come across. Humans, elves, orcs, dragonborns, fairies, and merpeople tend to live up to 100 years of life. Woodians and mag people can live up to 500 years. Anyone can obtain immortality, though. In the following segment, I'll tell you about all of the main characters. Very quick summaries that will depict where they came from and who they will be involved with during the seasons. Hope you're quick to follow. King Drake, 66 years old, of Nubian merman descent. He is the current king of Colony Mezzanine Kings. He has been ruling in an ironclad dictatorship style since he was given the crown. Well, more like fought for it, then battled for it to finish a war for it. He has 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. All of them show strong leadership capabilities that will protect mankind all over the planet and the dimensions. Yet, he trusts not a single one of them because they aren't him. Even in a world full of high-octane magic, there's virtually no way to make another you to coexist or reclone to ensure your legacy. He hates that shit. Because some of the fruits of existing are simple, sweet things, outside of being hardcore all the time. He is already missing those things, year after year. It seems like he gets more hardcore, and that's damaging the human-male relations. Because he's going to obviously show favoritism to his kind. He was the one that started the curse against Father Borns 7 years ago. Added to the curse on occasion because he wanted the example to be witnessed faster. And all detriment that damaged the entirety of the universe. Because of how powerful of a level 5 super being Father Borns was, and with his superpower being astronomy, the curse energy will have multiplied by itself every attempt and fail until it succeeds. When it finally succeeded, the abnormal amount of curse energy created another curse that will turn a good 1,000 mile in radius of terrain into a random curse field until all of the energy goes away. In turn, this will create majority of the drama of the series. King Drake will finally be killed in the final season, on the final episode, that will release the literal super hold on the curses that have kept them alive the entirety of the story. Navano, 67 years old, of Spanish merman descent. He is the head mage of Colony Mezzanine Kings. He has been King Drake's right hand since he took the helm. His magic is far-reaching and is considered one of the very few mages that is aligned with all of the colonies around the planet and dimensions. Throughout his existence, his alignment deals with all of superkind. He never shows his disdain for humankind to humans. For anyone that makes him show that side, they won't live to tell about it. He has no problem with ending a life, even if it's mankind. That should be an indication to how hardcore he is. Because when he says, I have no qualms, so don't create any, he fucking means it. Navano will guide a lot of curse energy through the story, but will also have to debunk a lot of it. Because some of the curses that comes to the Vortex Mark will be against mankind, proving that he could literally stop all of the curse energy at any given time, but won't because that teaches humans to stop playing so much. Omaris, 28 years old, of Caribbean merman descent. He is one of the sentinels for Colony Mezzanine Kings. Happens to be one of the natural elitists. The theme of mankind has been hardcore so far. I think you know who I am by now. But Omaris has a nice pair of spirit swords that were given to him by spirit elders of mankind. They saw his potential through the afterlife veil as soon as his vessel left his mother's womb. Whenever he was big enough to wield 2 heavy swords at once, the spirit swords finally emerged to him, been hacking away sea creatures ever since. Some people say it's impossible, but if he has to put a giant whale out of its misery, he could. We'll chop it up and distribute the meat to all carnivores of the oceans. Throughout the story, his undying crush since their teenhood will have him getting in all kinds of trouble revolving Prince Kelgil. Even when Prince Kelgil decides to sneak around with Mr. Barnes, Omaris has a particular way of describing his feelings for the prince. Revolves around adjusting collars, forgetting to put your phone on Do Not Disturb. There isn't enough holy water for this. Kinds of involuntary cardio workout whenever he sees him. The juicer is, when he will finally get him in season 4, leading up to that, Omaris and Mr. Barnes are going to have 3 pivotal fights that will appear to be aiming for kill or be killed. That's that love rage talking. Princess Genova, 27 years old, of Nubian mermaid descent. Because she's a daddy's girl, She is the one that mostly resembles his beliefs. It's very odd because it was never in a demeaning kind of way when he would raise them to be hardcore. The more hard they would get, the more harder he would get. But one thing for certain, Genova knows her father loves her. Because after every triumphant milestone they accomplished, his love was never doubtful. Made sure that celebrations were the richest of rich. Genova now feels like all she deserves are the riches of the rich. Good luck impressing a naturally powerful dame. For what she wants, she can take it with her looks or her might. Genova was used to help kill Father Barnes, but she won't have the same sentiment for Mr. Barnes when he starts having multiple affairs with her brother Kelgio. When she discovers his intentions with Superkind throughout the stories, Season 3 will show a different side of her. She will be portrayed as vicious until midway Season 3, but even after the hope of all of intelligent life forms getting along comes in the form of Mr. Barnes, she won't be as vicious. Throughout the story, she will be seen dealing with other royals and trying to date within that pool. By Season 5, she will get one of the Japanese princes, via Kiona. Prince Rexon, 28 years old, of Nubian merman descent. He happens to be his father's favorite, but no one knows this because Drake never acts anything other than stoic and mean. However, Rexon has a playful side, so he tends to be everyone's favorite of the Royal Three. With him being the middle child and the second son, he never takes anything serious even though he's academically inclined on all subjects of life and even that intelligent when it comes to being street savvy. He has no qualms with humans or any other superkind. It's safe to regard him as truly neutral in that sense. Yet, whatever his father says goes, and that's not because he said so. His loyalty to his father is natural without any faults, regardless that they are detrimental or not. In the times where he isn't in his father's presence, he's somewhere else on the planet or the dimensions, partying it the fuck up until he's needed. Rexon is what you would consider an A-list celebrity, naturally. Checks off all of the boxes of everything. His natural state of being is to get along to live alone because there's nothing like living a harm-free life. He believes in everything his father and any other says, but in the end, he will do what he desires. Throughout the story, Rexon will be viewed as a secret weapon, always brought in to fix something minor or major. Either way it goes, he will be comedic and eye-candy relief. Prince Kelgio, 29, of Nubian merman descent. He is the eldest of his generation. He understands that, but no likes that. He sees the freedom his little brother has, sees the freedom a whole lot of the worlds have. All of them. It's safe to say that he's jealous and sometimes even thinks about not being a royal. Ever since the day he figured that Father Barnes is one of the very few that doesn't mind interspecies relations, he found hope. Was even trying to stop his father from killing him because he wished he had the option to leave his life. Any other time, he's abusing the gifts he has to try to make the world a better place, even while his father is still sitting on the throne. Kelgio's biggest disposition is going to deal with seeing Mr. Barnes for the first time. They never crossed paths while growing up, even though Mr. Barnes grew up on a resort. In all realities, their love at first sight is going to be the thing that will allow the residual cursed energy to break open again after Mr. Barnes returns home. Metaphorically meaning that trying to stop love in any of its forms is detrimental. When he figures out that his father has to die for the summoned cursed energy to finally stop, he's going to be the one to kill him. Not anyone in the fringe department, not any other superkind, not even Nirvana is going to be able to stop him from correcting this wrong. At the end of the story, it will be the two of them escaping the world somehow. Angelo, 31 years old, of Italian human descent. I hope you can tell he likes to wink. I hope you can tell he would be a saucy troublemaker in this story. Has a voice for the masses but likes a simple kind of life. Plans on living his entire life making love out of nothing at all. With no harmful intentions whatsoever. Keeps it dreamy. But even the ones without a harm can be harmful. Grade-S love maker, grade-S make-outer, grade-S masseuse, grade-S conversationalist, grade-S in human rights, makes him everyone's favorite. From covering popular songs to personal songs, you will catch him handling events, weddings, the resort radio show, handling the stage at the buffet, and on occasion, hosting bingo. When he's not out making a spectacle of his talents, he's in some woman's skivvies, trying to make her yell to the universe in ultimate pleasure. Even though millions will consider his voice to be perfect, he considers hundreds of women's voices to be perfect. He will, without any doubts, start massive affairs that will have a resort in the public eye, around the globe and the dimensions. It doesn't need that kind of press, cause with more eyes around means the superkind have to move more aggressive to keep their identities a secret. He will not know of superkind until he fucks around and finds out, via making love to a fairy in season 5. The Never Ending, comprised of Kiona, Callie, J'adore, Bella, and Mona Dre. All are 23 years old. Kiona is of Japanese mermaid descent, hails from colony Shinra, all the way from the shores of Japan. Callie, of Dominican mermaid descent, hails from colony California Queens, all the way from the shores of California. J'adore, of Mozambican mermaid descent, hails from colony Cryo Cur, all the way from the shores of Mozambique. Bella, of Norwegian mermaid descent, hails from colony Osura Drinker, all the way from the shores of Norway. And Mona Dre, of Moroccan mermaid descent, hails from colony Dechi X, all the way from the shores of Morocco. They are all one of the many Merpeople that has the incubus-succubus gene, meaning their voices were born to be siren developed. They sing with the intentions of peace, but it's in being regarded as special by their entire colonies that open up many opportunities. One of them is being blessed with a weapon of mass creation and destruction, to be protected by them, their entire lifespans. Nextly, these are the swords of their colonies, highly enchanted art pieces of wonderful blacksmiths. I won't go into too much detail, but all of these swords will be used defensively during the story. When cursed energy comes around them, they will not play around at all, because of the honor they swore to protect when they received their swords. Bestowed to Kiona, the Ripa, shaped like a katana but has a spiky blade finish. Bestowed to Callie, the Escudo Amor, shaped like a katana but one side is obviously orange and the other is obviously magenta. Bestowed to J'adore, the Crypta V, shaped like a katana but the blade appears to be transparent black ghostly energy. Bestowed to Bella, the Ragnotion, shaped like a katana but has a wavy blade finish. And bestowed to Mona Dre, the Sensasia, shaped like a katana but considered rectangular shaped. Throughout the story, the Never Ending will be portrayed as a girl group that entertains around the resort weekly, just like Angelo, but they don't have the disposition of sexual pleasure. Their pleasures revolve around spreading vocal unity and mere unity. The secret is, these 5 girls were brought together as a project of getting information around the globe through colonies. Because there are 5 foreign colonies in a foreign port, they can spread their colony's magical might, secrets, and culture without being detected by humans or other superkind. This is a way of cultivating and protecting historical culture of Merpeople. They do it honorably, but they have that deep down body thirst to party hardy, like partying is never out of season. They started this project when they were 13, been together since. Even though they have had their world tours, they have a permanent stay at the Bizzaro Rocco resort. They've been enjoying the fast lane majority of their life and never plan on changing it. Hence, their group name, The Never Ending. Eric Earl, 27, of Caucasian human descent. Excessively country and excessively hilarious as hell and heaven. He loves meeting new people and he loves taking care of all of the technology of the resort. He gets to deal with managing maintenance, amusement, arcades, smart tablets, and the electric build. All up in everyone's business around the property he be, but they all love him. He will be on the fence when it comes to the existence of Merpeople. By the end of season 4, he will be an ally. He will discover the supernatural and keep it to himself from the end of season 1 until season 3, What the military found out, he knew of them. Throughout the story, he will be a huge fanboy of the never ending. He'll be eavesdropping too well when he discovers their secrets. But you would be hard pressed to understand how Merpeople counter human technology to keep their secrets. Hard pressed. Brando, 36 years old, of Costa Rican human descent. He still models nowadays, even models for the resort every now and then. But his heart is for seeing everyone having a good time. Regardless of the stress it puts on his actual life, the full throttle life of the main event coordinator gets him in good with all of the traveling celebrities. Still plugged heavily into social media land, and sometimes that gets in the way of the mystique of the actuality of the resort. The headaches he has to untangle sometimes, but he does it for the love of the vivacious climate this resort offers to the world. He will be an ally when he is exposed to Merpeople. Can't kid no one. For the luxurious life he is already holding, the Merpeople made it better. He will be in a know close to the end of season 1. Bronco, 40 years old, of African human descent. Agent Bronco is one of the undercover militant orders of the base. He always stays weaponed up and down as he oversees all of the vehicular operations of the resort, so that he has all eyes on all of the caches at any given time. He is an aerologist and endologist. He knows a lot about the supernatural, but unlike majority of the cast, he will stay on the fence the entirety of the story. Him being a don't trust no nigga, no Christian, or no Muslim type. That's the only bad thing about him. He will never be an ally, but he will never be an enemy. Sir Vince, 43 years old, of Turkish human descent. Throughout the duration of the story, he will have a thing for Miara Milan. Their affairs over the story will get intense, but it will never go in a direction of domestic. Their story will revolve around loving too hard and making the wrong decisions with trying to spice up their relationship. They will be together in every odd season, but they will not be together during every even season. Sir Vince will not be an ally. He will guise as if he is one to save face with Miara. He tries to do things that exclude the supernatural. He is one of the few characters that knew about the supernatural way before the story started, with him being on a payroll of the resort since he was 29. He found out about them when he was 33, making season 1 his 10-year anniversary of knowing about Superkind. Merpeople at least. Chef Chopper, 44 years old, of Chinese human descent. He has a multitude of dreams. One of them has been fulfilled. That being able to feed thousands of people. He is the main food director of the resort. For the rooms, for the breakfast buffet, lunch buffet, dinner buffet, themed restaurants, and themed fast food joints, as well as having all rights over the executive cuisine in his own restaurant, Chop City. He goes around the entire world with that restaurant, and the accolades have made him one of the most satisfied people of today. He will be on the fence when he discovers Merpeople. He will discover them in season 3, and no one will know until season 4. He will cause a lot of stress for the resort when he finds out, and it will make the residual curse energies worse again. Minnie, age 28, a Chinese human descent. She's one of those characters that literally will act like they ain't on shit, but are the shit. Yeah, ho. So she is the resident comedian and lifesaver. Med school made, battlefield refined. Ended up being recruited through orders. Hasn't even been there yet. This will be her first year. She'll be coming through when Mr. Barnes heads back home. There will be best buds immediately, as she is the first person he meets as they both end up on the same train. Minnie is already an ally. Her fringe orders came to her when she was 22. She's been assigned to several different fringe orders her entire military career. This happens to be the one she's going to call home for a long foreseeable time. Georgia, 39 years old, of Jamaican human descent. She's a complex firecracker who gives off Wanda Sykes vibes, but somehow retains the position as head of human resources. Always talking with the direction of one-line hitter quitters so that everyone acts according as if they are on the clock. She will often be seen dealing with the sexuals of the cast and making sure all resort guests get what they paid for. She'll often be seen taking double shots because it's a healthy way to deal with stress. This job is always occupied by someone in the military because someone needs the right weapons to make sure the human superkind relations are status quo. She has no qualms with any of the superkind, but the woman she fell in love with was a mermaid. She was killed by humans many years ago, and ever since then, she has been taking double shots every day at noon. Oddly enough, she died in the same way Father Bourne's died. Knowing that, will have her guarding Mr. Bourne's life as if it was her own, since she was kinda besties with Father Bourne's. Priscilla, 27 years old, of Brazilian Woodian descent. She'll be set as comedic, repeating character that can do anyone's job around the property. She will be a servant Woodian sent to help protect the human super relations of this region. Like all Woodians, they are revered as the safest superkind around the planet. They are direct descendants from trees. They have been around since the dawn of time and generally not hunted. They often are the mediators around the planets and dimensions. The good thing about Woodians deal with the fact that humans are warded to not harm them because of their natural state. Looking throughout history, there has been no known hunt for Woodians. Priscilla wears her hair straight at all times and it stops at her stomach. She always appears as a very ridiculous, pretty girl with the right attitude, who will be viewed the most altruistic throughout the story besides Mr. Bourne's. Priscilla helps with the hiding of superkind at all times, but also is a Jackie of all trades. She will be seen being maintenance, a chef, a waitress, a receptionist, sanitation, carpentry, builder, lifeguard, hostess, police officer, coast guard, fringe, and dancer for the never ending. She will be in every episode doing something ridiculous to make all of the characters smile. Sidebar time. Let me introduce you to other recurring characters. Zonto, 301 years old, of Portuguese Woodian descent. Whenever Priscilla needs an off day or period, Zonto will come through and take up the reins as the coveree. Zonto has been around for a long time, wants to spend his lifespan spreading as much life and oxygen around as if the world doesn't have suns of their own or vegetation of their own. Real ridiculous with handing out four-leaf clovers that have been enchanted with luck too. The amount of ridiculous anger he takes away from people that haven't met him yet will give you an understanding that he moves around the entirety of the world. Knows all of the bases for human and superkind. Knows that all of the light he spread isn't in vain and will help out the world. He has turned people steered down paths of aggression and violence to being peaceful and protective. All Woodians love peace more than war, but like all Woodians, he is not afraid to end a life. For peace will be sheltered, never feared. Yet, a handsome man with juicy lips, chocolate eyes, and an actual bush on his head will have you walking around with no qualms too. He would assume Priscilla's position in one episode per season, and during those times, Priscilla will be seen, somehow in that episode, enjoying the fuck out of her existence elsewhere in the world. To save time, I'm not going to talk about how ridiculous Woodians get on their off time. Yum, 29 years old, of Nigerian descent. He is considered a one-man army type of militant. His special orders are so special, it'll make your head hurt, but at least somebody as big as Zonto has a highly decorated protector. I'll make it simple. If Yum were to be asked to harm anyone in the world, he could harm Major General Zephyr, King Drek, or Mr. Bourne without a hitch. All brawn, all brain, by the time he was 27. He's been on the detail of being Zonto's chauffeur, where he will guide the worldly coveree Woodian to all of his new job posts while attending to any assassin or other work detail. Every episode, Okiki Yun will come and scoop Zonto up and drive him off into the sunset. One episode, one scene per season. Always with the theatrics of knowing he the shit and no one is sexier than him. Zonto might act like a big, heavy-chested, hairy-chested man with a lovely curly mane, but always melts his life away when Yum comes to pick him up. Back on track we go. Heiko, 37 years old, of Cambodian human descent. Heiko comes from a long line of hunters, the type of humans that are against any superkind and allegiances, meant to wreak havoc against their existence as much as possible. Heiko hasn't been an acting hunter since he left his hometown of Roswell, New Mexico. He will discover Merpeople's existence in the region during Season 3 and will be a recurring obstacle of peace around the property and region. To the point, he's going to try to get the resort shut down. In Season 5, Major General Zephyr will get the orders to kill him, and it will finally happen around the final episodes. He will have a King of Spades moment via Alice in Borderland once he figures out a consistent way to get to the colony. He will be stopped by Prince Kelgio. Slater, 40 years old, of Caucasian human descent. He's a new hire, lost his position at another superkind relations site. Over in Portland, he fell in love with a fairy by the name of Jasmina, a hot woman of the hottest women. No one could say no to her, but she had to say no to a lot. Couldn't say no to him, but there felt dealt with betraying royals. She was slain because of the affair, and his stellar record made it so he didn't lose his career credentials. Over the story, he would develop against his better judgment and willpower. Feelings for Callie is going to repeat all over again by Season 5, and the detriment of that will be the end of his life. Until then, he will be an ally and a confidant of many of the employees there. Him and Mr. Barnes will become best buds that usually cross paths at the beginning of his shift and the end of his shift. Malvado, 43 years old, of Costa Rican human descent. Malvado is a piece of work. Kinda selfish, but he is great otherwise. Selfish in the only capacity of pleasure. Uses his newfound bachelor status as a means of learning way too much about women. Has caused several affairs that have rocked a lot of the resort. Favorite kind of affairs deals with actresses. Has been able to smoothly talk a plethora of travelers into teaching him how Hollywood goes. Never a dull moment with this one, but he's a real sweet talker at heart with no intentions of harm to anyone else. Malvado has been with the resort majority of his adult life but won't discover Americana until Season 2. It will take a lot of human resourcing to get him to get over it. He won't be the same Malvado until Season 4. Tiffany Rowe, 57 years old, of German human descent. Tiffany Rowe has been with the property her entire adulthood, made the second chef manager position a decade ago, does great work with making sure everyone is getting what's owed to them while keeping a priority of the business flourishing. She's quite lovely and has no qualms with most employees, and if she does, it's solved psychologically through human resources. No one should be suffering while making a living. Tiffany has never discovered Americana at all, not even during all of the disappearances when they were there then all of a sudden vanishing. Never questioned it because people told her that it's a magical place and if you never feel like you're in danger, you have nothing to worry about. Yet, she would discover around the time Wiggly, her son, and Mr. Barnes finally start their affair, which will be semi-public like all of the others, but because he's human and is the same age, it's not an issue. Tiffany won't be in the know until Season 4. Wiggly, 28 years old, of German human descent. Wiggly acts like the creative writer of the property that keeps Merpeople from being discovered. He's going to have hella headaches once Mr. Barnes gets there, but he was already accustomed to them in the events leading up to his father being killed. He has been on the side of the Merpeople since he was sworn in under government officials to always stay loyal to the continued building of peace around human and supernatural relations. In reality, Wiggly always had a thing for Mr. Barnes. They weren't in each other's worlds, but once were together in elementary. Mr. Barnes will have a hard time remembering him, but it was the second grade and Wiggly was only in his district for half a school year. Mr. Barnes was always nice to Wiggly, and that kind of impression stuck with him even though he moved around a whole lot. With the relationship he had with his father, he knows the gravity of the property. Yet, he will finally open his mouth in Season 4 and get fed handsomely. Over and over again until government officials see the journalist and the property owner causing rifts within the staff. Miara Milan, 34 years old, of Italian human descent. A lovely child of the universe she is. A whole human care bear, and she's quite the life of the party. Been lovely ever since somebody told her she will attract more with sugar than vinegar. Huggably giggly ever since. She expertises in infant, child, and senior care with a medical license to boot. For her debt has been taken care of ever since she started working at this resort. Screw the worry and stress of debt when there's so much life to help while paying it off. Been spreading the wealth since, but she still has bad taste in men. Who knows why? She will be an ally as she sees it. Any life form deserves shelter, nourishment, and acceptance. She will finally discover the secret in season 2, in the midst of her first breakup with Sir Vincent. Hank, 31 years old, of African-Italian merman descent. To keep the death toll low, Merpeople usually take the helm as the main lifeguard on the premises. Hank likes to be at the beach all the time. It's where he can see all the hotties and choose accordingly. Will freaknik his way into any man or woman's draws. He's been enjoying his life thus far and has a party-hardy vibe to go with it. But when that whistle is around his neck, he is tending to everyone else having a great time, knowing throughout history as the best lifeguard they have ever had, and that's an ode to the previous leaders that have come before him. Some Merpeople consider him brainwashed because he perfectly fits in both cultures, but more so because he doesn't have any qualms with saving mankind. He believes that the more care you carry, the better it makes everyone else's lives. He will be one of Mr. Bourne's besties in the Merpeople community and will lead them to understanding how Hank uses his gifts in very unselfish ways, the most altruistic ways. Hank's rule of thumb when it comes to partying and sex, no one on the payroll. At all. No matter how much people throw themselves at him, there will be tough situations that will add on to the drama and even a cursed energy throughout all of the seasons. James Vinch, 69 years old, of African human descent. Ooh-wee! He is a whole billionaire trip, just spending all his free time at this resort. His free time being 10 months of the year. Every time he comes through, it's an event. Every time, even on his off time. Still talking mad shit and telling all of the guests random great things about the local stuff. He's been calling this resort his home for a good 19 years. No one is technically tired of him yet, but he donates a lot of his money to the resort. Not really needed since it's military funded, but he makes sure the donation goes to the employees directly. Will literally occupy his shop at the strip section and don't nobody know when he'll open it up. But when it's open, all operations of the resort stops. Everybody gets 10K. He will be an ally when he hears about Merpeople, but a bad ally. Because when he learns about the history of the supernatural, he's going to become nosy with something new. Let the headaches roll from season 3 on out. His curiosity will involve trying to figure out everything he can and how many other intelligent species are out there. But when he discovers dimensions, you know that sensation you get when somebody is in a work meeting talking and they don't need to talk? The Moniz nigga what slaughter face is the sentiment the entirety of the Fringe department is going to experience. James Vinch will be known as the nigga in apartment 13. Captain Blanca, 48 years old, of Filipino-Italian human descent. Nando Blanca was a teacher. A school shooting drove him to being a police officer. Now he's the head of the local police department. Mostly the entire region, but he used to teach Mr. Barnes back in the day. He was a 6th grade teacher. In the story, he'll be considered an ally to Mr. Barnes as well as a crazy love interest. He always had a crush on Father Barnes. He is, however, happily married to a woman with a whole family. In the story, their affair will only last one arc, determined for season 3. He will remain an ally but will force himself to stop coming to the hotel every big fiasco. Commander Clovers, 39 years old, of Irish human descent. Agent Clovers is indeed lucky, but his luck has left him with a chip on his shoulder. His first incident with the supernatural was in his youth, and he didn't get answers till much later in life. His military orders landed him where he wanted to go, coast guarding the coast of the Carolinas. He will never treat any superspecies in an inhumane way, not in person, in uniform, or in private. So it seems. Every now and then, he will escape a problem super and hold it in captivity to torture it, in line with their crimes, but for the most part, inhumane. No amount of reporting has tarnished his career as a Coast Guarder yet. He acts like an ally, but his non-forthgiving attitude towards them proves he isn't. Everyone at the hotel deals with him accordingly and tries not to get by on him whenever he has to come onto the property or whenever they see him in the cities. The discovery of his torturing will emerge in season 5, the final one. Then he's going to come up dead somewhere. I don't know. I'm better. Better. Just like Kathy Griffin. Oak, age 38, of Chinese human descent. Oak is originally from China, first-generation immigrant under legal standings. His international diplomacy allowed it. He will still tend to translation ordeals, but his main job is being the head of concierge. Loves this resort. Loved it so much he had to move here and be a part of it on a daily. He was 30 when he vacationed here for the first time. Been low-key obsessed with the magic behind it ever since. Still doesn't know it's connected to one of the many Merpeople colonies of the world. He will be an ally through the stories. He will finally discover that Merpeople exist in season 4. When his daughter gets involved with a fatal water incident, she gets undertold and comes up missing for several days. He wouldn't take any logical explanation to how she disappeared, but Mr. Barnes finally eased his fragile mentality with the truth. He simply said, "Oh." Then it cuts to the next episode per my current direction. Viscerra, but she likes everyone calling her Miss Viscerra. 30 years old, of African-Caribbean mermaid descent. Viscerra has been an undercover mermaid her entire life. She has rarely done her fins for their purpose. She doesn't want to live this life, but she understands that the Merpeople needed as much information as possible, and because of her high beauty, she would gladly sacrifice it. Besides, she lives enough because of her high beauty and will constantly jeopardize her role because living is the new black. When Mr. Barnes comes back around, he'll be one of the many humans that will never discover her secret, but will happily keep it. No one in the story figures out she's a mermaid. The ones that do are mysteriously killed far away from the property. The region, if you will. And just when you would think she's going to tell any human of the story on the final episode, she won't. Mr. Volge, 42 years old, of Arabian human descent. Mr. Volge is sometimes a hard-edged, get-down-to-business ass nigga with no room for anything else. He has lived a hard life where everyone has made him focus on holding down a career. Also, he has a chip on his shoulder that deals with the atrocities of humanity. How certain humans have treated the Saudis over the many centuries. He is definitely an ally to Merpeople. He's way more kind to them than he is to humans. Yet, guests generally do not interact with him because he tends to night hour times. He will begin to gain light in his darkened heart when Mr. Barnes comes to serve there. They will have their tryst around season 4 and it will end so well, it will free Mr. Volge. Captain Noja, 28 years old, of Caucasian Inuit human descent. Captain Noja is building a career to have a major general position like Zephyr. She was awarded his counsel because of her initial reaction to the supernatural. When the military saw how she went through her basic training, her schooling, and how she handled her orders up to her 24th year in life, her initial reaction was, "Have I ever met one?" Her first mere person was Prince Kelgio. When she met him again, she gave him the biggest hug and said some things along the line of whatever you need, you got. Instead of doing the normal afraid of things reactions, she has proven more that she is an ally to the relations to the supernatural. Her end game is to be on orders overseeing mag people. She wants their Hawaii life as soon as possible. Major General Zephyr, 48 years old, of Caucasian human descent. Major General Zephyr is an ally. Just wanted to start off there. He is permanently on orders to oversee the human-Merpeople relations and the supernatural around it of the Bizzaro Rocco resort and the surrounding cities of Layahuchi and Rainport. He tried to convince Father Barnes to stop helping humans and Merpeople escape the love. Nothing he could say, could help him, and in the end, he couldn't protect him from all of the aggravated accumulating cursed energy around him. Major General Zephyr took his death to heart since they served in the military together the longest. He was and still is his best friend, will try his damnedest to make sure Mr. Bourne stays on orders. In a 100% capacity, he never put anyone under his orders in jeopardy for the mission, but has still kept it patriotic without the Merpeople revolting beyond repair. He doesn't like having them in captivity, but he will give them major leeway on a bylaw so they can live a whole lot more. Yes, he had the same mindset of Father Barnes, but would never deliberately and flat out ignore the consequences of allowing the biggest bylaw to keep happening under his watch. Mr. Barnes, 28 years old, of African-German human descent, he is announced as a new property manager of the Bizzaro Rocco Resort. Has had his head in the stars his entire life. That's an ode to the crib chandelier of stars and spaceships. Was in astronaut programs since he was 10 and stayed on that path angelically his entire life. He has lived a life of mostly no harm, very strict, but with a little bit of joy to keep him balanced otherwise. He didn't take his father's death as bad as most sons would. Being in a militant family will result in a hard life or a hard, untimely death life. His father always told him that he could bite the dust at any given time, and that was usually after talking about the fragility of all of the superkind. So Mr. Barnes never behaved in a malicious way. He can still smack the flavor out of your mouth into a gator's, and you better start hauling ass, cause that gator will want more. Moving along. He just got clearance to be the fleet commander of the next spaceship to fly out the Danger Exhume. With a crew of 45, their mission would be to make it to an already established space colony in the next galaxy over. They were scheduled to bring provisions to the space colony to sustain life for 50 years. It's simply a dream job to him, but knowing the importance of where he grew up, he couldn't let anything happen to the property. He sacrificed a dream gig for a great good. Besides, in 5 years, he would have that same opportunity, but heading to a galaxy in a different direction. In the meantime, he figured he could absorb the sun through the original ozone layer one last time for a long time, but has no idea how half a decade will be painted by nightmares and dreams. Other than Xanto, there will be recurring characters that come and go. The only other major ones are the Rainbow Seven. Directly under Major General Zephyr are 7 Navy SEAL equivalents that always work undercover at the hotel to make sure nothing supernatural is happening out in the public, and to act as protocol measures to ensure safety protocols go by as smooth as possible. Those 7 soldiers are of various ages and get mixed out every now and then per their orders. As of now, the current Rainbow 7 act as women or men who are on vacation for a very long time with various dossiers to cover their acting profiles. No matter who gets switched out, they abide by the dossier's color for a cover story. Those 7 positions refer to a pediatrician, a lawyer, a dentist, an orthopedic surgeon, a food chain owner, a librarian, and a police officer. These spots are reserved for soldiers who cannot turn off their talents of being strong to secure the safety of society. Their vacation time is spent here while they survey civilians, the property, Layahuchi, and Rainport. Now that concludes the Bizzaro Rocco. All of the characters of the story following the make of the world. Hope you understand. If you didn't, leave a comment. I'll get back to you whenever. Also, this reminds me of that time in college where I had an assignment. The assignment went along like, make up a fictional world for creative writing. I had a week to create the synopsis of the world, but knowing me, I added the bios of the 6 main characters that went along with this coven of the first girl character, where she can ask anyone to join her coven, and with that, opens a whole world of mayhem. When I was talking about how each of the other 5 got their special abilities from a coven, I went the whole fuck in. Was thrusting around in imagination land like nothing else until there was nothing left. Then the instructor of the class said it sounded like I spent more than a week making up this world. I probably shouldn't have asked her if I can use a world I already created, so I went and inadvertently add to the Tristone era again. Those characters belong to an idea of story number 21, The Real Be For Real. Didn't even need new ideas at the time, but I will more than likely not develop this extra story past the initial idea of what I just worded out. Keep it peaceful in the meantime. Time to work on Greenlock's folklore piece for the Crimson Collective. Deuces hustle with your punk ass.